Well, here's a preliminary look at the Electrola 101. Recent arrival. I have it all disassembled for cleaning and lubrication. As you can see, the motor is out of it in a million pieces, and right now it is soaking in a kerosene bath because it's a mess. But here's a look under the hood of your typical 101, well, pretty much all of them. You have the folding horn in there. You see the horn right there? That's where the magic happens. And where's the plate? Now, while these may say Electrola, German, they are actually made at the Hayes Middlesex factory in the UK. And there you go. C101L. Motorboards, and I don't know why that number is there, because that does not correspond to any number on this machine. It must have been somebody's private stock number, maybe. I'm not really sure. Doesn't matter. It's hidden by the motorboard, by the turntable, so I don't really have to worry about it. Here is the plate from the motor, and there you go. Manufactured by the Gramophone Company Ltd, Hayes Middlesex. If there was any doubt. Now, these machines used the number 4 reproducer. This is it. And it is Electrola marked, number 4. Now, let's take a closer look at it. See if I can actually get it close enough so you can see that. You see the cracking there? The splits that are starting right there? Yeah, that's pot metal. That's what happens when pot metal gets old and begins to swell from intergranular corrosion, or dissimilar metals disease, because the mix of pot metal here has tin and lead and copper, things in it that react with each other over time, and they swell and they crack. There's really not much that can be done about it. It's just the nature of the beast. And they were perfectly fine in their day. I mean, actually they were better than the average reproducer because they were lighter. Pot metal is a pretty light metal, and that makes it a lighter reproducer is easier on the records. It would have been much, much nicer had they used aluminum, like the Swiss did with a lot of theirs, because then they'd still be in good shape today, and we could use them. This, I know from experience, if I try to get this apart, it's going to be swollen in there and tight, and it will break in a million little pieces, and that will be the end of it, and we won't have it anymore. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to keep it the way it is, store it with the machine, and I'm going to rebuild one of my all-brass UK, one of the 101.4s that I have from the UK that I imported. It won't say Electrola on it, but it'll be a working reproducer, and this will be preserved for history. So that's that. It happens. I mean, the Victor ones are no better. They do the same thing, if not actually worse. You know, your typical Victrola number 4 reproducer is crumbled to dust by this point in time. And I've tried everything I could think of to try to get one, rebuild one, and it just never works out. It's a waste of time. Here's your tone arm. Yeah, this is the skinny tone arm of the 101. They got fatter for the 102. And now let me show you what to do with this. A lot of times you'll find this joint will be loose and the tone arm will be flopping around a little bit. Let's get that off of there. Doing this one-handed is not easy. You slide this out. And now you see this ring right here with the 2 slots in it. Now you probably don't have a spanner to fit that, but if you take a pair of needle nose pliers that's big enough, spread them open, put one tip there and one tip there, tighten it a little bit, and that takes the slop right out of it. And no more flapping around. This one is tight, so I'm assuming this machine probably didn't see a whole lot of use. You know, so when you see them tight like that, but that's typical for a portable machine. This was likely brought home to this country by a tourist or maybe a returning serviceman. That seems to be typically what I find when I buy these. This one I don't know the backstory on because it came from a dealer, but eBay dealer I should say. But that's typical because obviously Electrola was not selling, or HMV for that matter, was not selling in the U.S. market. So if you see one here, it's because somebody brought it here. They physically bought it overseas and brought it home. Or maybe, well, not even Canada in this case. Because the Electrola, I don't believe, was selling in Canada, while HMV was. But here's a look at what's inside of one of these. You can see we'll see if I can get the registration number on there. Oops. There you go. Registration numbers. And that's what every 101 horn looks like. All they really did for the 102 was spread that out a little bit, move the tone arm to a different location so it's not in the way, moved it over here, and they just spread the horn out like that, made it a little bit bigger. That's why the 101 and the 102 really have good sound. And the 101 has excellent sound. In my opinion, it's only slightly less than the 102. It's not orthophonic, you know, it doesn't have a fancy fat tone arm and a bigger horn, but it really does sound good with the number 4 reproducer. And electrically recorded records. And this one is actually in very nice shape. There's a beautiful black case on it. Let's see if I shut that, I'll show you. Get the lid stay down. There we go. Look at the condition of that. The Rexine is almost perfect on it. I mean, not 100% obviously. It's showing its age in spots like there. That's typical. But overall wear, I look at this machine and it has the original handle on, so I know that it really wasn't used a lot. Because ones that were used, that handle was the first thing to go. It's leather, it's already cracking, you can see it. But generally, all I get is no handle at all, or just a metal strip left there where the handle used to be. New handles are available, you can get them, but you know, it's only original once. It's nice to have the original handle on there. Got some stains we're going to clean up. Now the motor was unbelievably filthy, but not from dirt. From crusted, nasty, ancient, baked-on grease. You know, I don't know what kind of grease they used at Hayes back in the 1920s and early 30s, but it is the hardest stuff to remove I've ever come across. I've never had a Victrola, no matter how dirty, give me the same amount of trouble as any of the HMV machines with the grease. It just cooks on there. Now take a look at this. You see that yellow crap all around the edge? That is baked on ancient oils that seeped out of the motor and got underneath the cover and just baked on there over time. You know, just dried out. This has to be scrubbed and scrubbed to remove very gently so you don't damage the plating. You know, and what I usually do, which is what I'm doing now, is I soak the parts of the motor for days or even weeks in kerosene. It's already coming loose, so I don't think it'll be weeks in this case, but it can take a very long time, and the spring especially is difficult because all of this is on the spring. Only a whole lot more of it. So that's going to have to be scrubbed along every inch of its length to remove it. But that's typical. I see this on all of these machines, and I just marvel at how nasty this stuff got over the years. I don't know if it's whale oil based, that's the reason, or something else, but it's nasty. So one thing I don't look forward to whenever I take one of these machines apart, an HMV, is I'm going to have to deal with that grease. But it's soaking. It's all apart. It's loosening up slowly. Definitely a machine worth putting time into, so I'm going to do that. You know, this is an auto brake model. It's one of the later ones. We have all the little parts right here. Now, let's see, where is it? You see that tiny little ball bearing there? That tiny little ball bearing goes in this plate. Right in here. Right, see where the cup is? That holds that little tiny ball bearing. More than once I found it missing and nothing was working properly because of it. The motor board drops down, it's scraping because somebody lost that tiny ball bearing. Whoops, lost track of it myself. There it is. And it's difficult to replace because it's really not a standard size of anything that Victor uses. I mean, it's close. These are the ones Victor uses in the tone arms, and they're not too far away, but they're not quite. You know, they're a little bit bigger. So you really will have a hard time if you lose that. So don't do it if you take one of these motors apart. Be very careful. Always work over a towel so that when that falls out, and sometimes it will, or sometimes it'll fight you, it doesn't bounce across the floor and disappear. And there's the auto brake assembly, the speed control, and all the stuff off the motor board. It's not in bad shape, just needs to be wiped down and cleaned and adjusted. Whatever else needs. Put that out of the way so I don't knock it on the floor. And there's your motor boards and turntable. Yeah, same as any other 101. Just because it says Electrola doesn't mean it's any different than any 101 you would have bought in the UK or Canada or Australia or wherever. All the same machine. You know, Electrola name comes out on some different models later on, like the 106 and all of that, which is kind of a hybrid between this and the 102. I don't know if I've ever showed one. I probably showed one playing. I don't think I ever showed one apart. One of these days when I do one of those, and I do have a few waiting, I will show what they look like under the hood. Got a nice record shelf here. This actually came with a record on the turntable, all scratched up, of course. Oh, I'm sorry, no, this did not. The 100 did. That's going to be the subject of another video later on. But there you go. A preliminary look at the 101 Electrola. There'll be another one when it's playing.